coming to you live from deep within a fractious radioactive wasteland. We are the survivors of the Carney apocalypse. The few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against absolute bullshit. With Rantzerker number, help me out, Brian. You can't help me out. Never mind. Number 242. Carney puts Canada up for sale. Is Trump the highest bidder? And I know we're going to get a lot of blowback from that because there were some people in the previous video who said, but Carney said Canada was never for sale. Specifically, what he said is that he spoke to the owners of Canada. Who the hell knows what that means? But best interpretation is he means the citizens of Canada. But even in saying that, he has distanced himself from the citizens of Canada. He set himself apart from the citizens of Canada. And he said that, it's never going to be for sale. And then Trump very teasingly said, never say never. And he did not push back on that. He didn't. He just laughed like they were sharing a joke. And one of the issues that I have with the way that he framed it is, of course, he did not put himself with the citizens of Canada.
Well, why would he? Why would he? He hasn't lived here for 20 fucking years.
Yeah, but he almost puts himself like in a position as our realtor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like the owners of Canada would never make it, but I might, and I might for the right price, and that's negotiable, and that's all the giggling back and forth that we saw, and so I wanted to get back into that because I have a theory. I have a theory about how potentially Trump and Carney are going to split up Canada. And I think it has some interesting implications for the greater world. And we can explore that. And Karen will certainly be on my ass to make sure that my theory conjecture isn't complete and utter bullshit. So I'll present that to you. And maybe if we have time, we'll go over the recent dust up between Netanyahu and Carney, the assassinations, as well as the genocide of the Afrikaners, because those are some big topics that people are talking about. I don't know. Yeah.
Fuck the balls on Trump to play that video right in front of the fucking president and the press.
Yeah. So there's a channel that I follow called Johnny Bravo, and he did a compilation clip of all the press that called it an ambush. And it was like multiple, all with identical wording.
Yes, of course.
Definitely.
Well, it was an ambush. I'm watching Asmongold TV, right? Okay. And he's just like, the reporter is like, oh, what do you have to say about these conspiracy theories about a white genocide? And then he pauses it and he's like, she just triggered the trap card, right? She just activated the trap card. She doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
No, and it's like nobody knew Trump, and he's like, Natalie, is Natalie here? Natalie here. Can we just turn the lights down and put the video on? Right? As if it wasn't all fucking like, of course he ambushed the president of South Africa. Of course he did.
Yeah, well, how else are you going to do this? Yeah. Besides, wasn't the president of South Africa sort of demanding a meeting?
The president of South Africa, okay, he was like sitting there, not even watching, because he's heard all of this shit before on that video, right? Until the sound of the helicopter, and and then Trump was like, "This is really, really bad." Right? Mm-hmm. These are all these crosses, right? And then and he's like, wait, where is this? Do you know where this is? I have never seen this before. I have not seen this before, right? All these crosses along the highway, right? And representing white farmers. And Trump said they were burial sites. And then someone in Asmongold's chat says, oh, those aren't burial sites. They're just memorial crosses, right? And then he's like, that's the fact checking that we really need. right? That's the absolute state of fact checking that we really need. There's no bodies under the ground. It's just that each cross represents a dead body, right? So like fact check false, right? And then literally the next day, right? Caroline Leavitt is behind the podium, the press secretary, and like one of the first things a reporter says is, "Oh, it was false that they were burial sites," right? You know, and I'm just like,
are you fucking kidding me?
Everything is so fucking predictable. It's just like when Jon Stewart was like, lambasting Trump for saying, Joe Biden, it had to be pretty, like, if he's got stage 9 cancer. No, he doesn't have stage 9 cancer. There are 4 stages of cancer, right? Okay.
We're covering a lot of topics, folks.
But he was 9 on the Gleason scale, which means he's either had cancer for between 5 and 10 years and never told anybody about it. Or he's got vaccine-induced turbo cancer.
Yikes.
How many jabs did that guy get? Anyway, but he was a 9 on the Gleason score. Okay, and so I'm just like, okay, so he said burial sites rather than memorial crosses. He said stage 9 rather than Gleason 9. Oh my God. These are the lies. The lies.
Yeah, I know.
The dirty, filthy lies that Trump tells.
I mean,
even though they're basically true.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they've got a little bit.
He got the terminology wrong.
Got the terminology wrong. Maybe we got the details.
Burying their loved one on the shoulder of a fucking highway.
Also, there's one other thing that I wanted to go, maybe if we get into it, although we've already sort of got into it. Did you see the recent news of the Australian woman who set a man on fire for the joke? I think it was, if you can't keep up with us, with the drinking, just get back in the kitchen. That kind of joke, which is a very, very, very mild kind of ribbing. But she set him afire, and she said in her trial that she did it because basically he disrespected her with his misogynist joke. And what's incredible was the feminist response to this. Like there was one tweet where the woman called her a diva, and then there was all kinds of excuses being made and saying, and also the feminists who said it was a teachable moment for men. It was a teachable moment for men because victim blaming, right? So they get to victim blame men and refer to it as a teachable moment for men because women get victim blamed.
Because he wore too short a skirt?
Yeah, that kind of thing. Except people don't do that kind of so-called victim blaming in that way. When they say things like that, it's preventative. Like they tell women as these things to prevent rape, and so they'll say don't drink to excess when you're in the presence of strangers, people you don't know, and don't.
Or even sometimes people you do know.
Yeah, and so they'll say this to women to try to help prevent violence done, and then don't go to sketchy areas of town, that kind of thing. That's not victim blaming. That is prevention. It's no more victim blaming than there's a dog park at my city and they have a sign up saying, do not, leave valuables in your car at your own risk, and don't do it because it incites theft. Is that like, and then the other thing is that men get the same kind of admonition to protect themselves. Don't get drunk around stage. If you're going to lose a kidney, you're going to get rolled for your wallet. Don't get blackout drunk in front of strangers. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Don't
Somebody's you're gonna be lucky if they just shave an eyebrow off and draw a dick on your face.
Yeah. So don't do these things. It's the same. So it's the same thing that's said to men when it comes to being victims of crime as women. But somehow, because people say that to women at all, even though they also say it to men, it's just a woman setting
It's
a man alight.
Yeah.
Setting a man alight for a mildly disrespectful joke is a teachable moment for men so that men can learn sympathy for the hardship of women.
What do you mean the hardship of women, right? Okay, he's like, if you can't handle your liquor, get back in the kitchen. How is that a hardship?
Well, it's because it's victim blame. Well, no, you got to understand the logic. Let me take you through the logic, okay? We say things like, don't get blackout drunk in the presence of strangers to women, right?
Yeah.
We say things like that. And we also say, don't go into bad neighborhoods if you don't want to be victims of crime.
That's just showing that you care about women.
Specifically, what the police chief said in regards to that started the whole slut walk was, if you don't want to be catcalled, don't wear short skirts.
Yeah,
that's it. That's the victim blaming. So it didn't actually have anything to do with grape. It just had to do with street harassment.
Okay, can you just stop calling it grape, please?
I know.
We're adults here.
Yeah, well, YouTube apparently isn't.
Okay, but anyway, you keep on accidentally saying it and then correcting it. And so, we're already demonetized.
I'm hoping that eventually that I'll be able to just, remember before I say it. But regardless, let's move on. So essentially what they're saying is because women get crime prevention advice, this man being lit on fire for saying a mildly disrespectful joke to this woman is a teachable moment for men because the victim blaming, because they're victim blaming him. They're saying it was justified. They're saying that he should have rethought what came out of his mouth. And so it's a teachable moment for men. A woman setting a man alight is a teachable moment for men. You don't understand the logic, right?
Well, I do.
Yeah? Okay.
No, I understand their logic. As far as one can call it logic. Yeah,
I'm looking at that. I'm like astounded.
Okay. Yeah, it's the logic inherent. Okay, are you done falling all over yourself? Come here. Oh, he made it. He made it up onto the couch. Anyway, and I paid $2,700 for his fucking teeth.
Oh, you did? Yikes.
Yeah. He needed a lot of extractions. And now he's just like, no, I'm old. I lost my teeth. It's like when they cut Samson's hair. I'm not a leaper anymore. Anyway.
Okay, so just to explain what she's talking about, her Chihuahua thing.
Okay, so
Chihuahua has had to have his teeth removed. So now he's mourning his teeth. Okay,
anyway,
but let's get back to the strange logic here.
Okay, so the logic is the same as in that joke, right? What do you tell a woman with two black eyes? Nothing you haven't already told her twice.
Yeah. Except with the side order of appealing to patriarchy theory to justify mocking and belittling a man who was set on fire for a mildly disrespectful joke.
Yeah.
And then turning around. What's astounding is not just taking responsibility for being incredibly off-color, callous, immature, lacking in all kind of empathy, shit ladies, but also trying to have the moral high ground at the same time. So it's it's eating it too.
No, it's like insane because like my husband and I, we rib each other all the time, and every once in a while, he gets me in a sore spot, right? And I let him know, in plain language, not by setting him on fire. Okay, but by just telling him, can you please leave that alone? Right? Because that's a sore spot with me, and I don't like it.
Like a sense of, or you just rib back if it isn't something that really bothers you.
If it's not something that really bothers me, I just go at him hard. Right? I'm just like, I'm right there. Like, I literally told him before we came on, right? I told him I was not going to feed him lunch until he changed out of his wizard cloak and into pants and a shirt, mortal clothing, right?
Clothing.
Okay, mortal, because I'm not having you waltzing back and forth behind the camera here, right? In view of the camera, in your fucking wizard cloak, which conceals the mysteries, the many mysteries of your immortality, but often reveals some of the mysteries nobody never wanted to ever see. Because somehow you don't understand how to belt your wizard cloak properly. Anyway, so he's working from home today. But it's like, yeah, no. And so he's like, okay, I'll put on my mortal clothes. So now he's his unassuming alter ego. Yeah. And today he's Clark Kent today, not Superman.
He's Clothicles.
Yeah.
But all right.
But it's like, yeah, no, it's like, if he couldn't take that kind of joke, if I can't take those kinds of jokes, right, then we don't belong together. And honestly, if I couldn't, okay, but then, I mean, okay, look at it this way. I had a boss. I had a love-hate relationship with him. It wasn't a love-hate. It was an on-off relationship. Sometimes we were friendly. Sometimes we were absolutely not. And it was always up to him. Like, he would just run hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold, right? Sometimes I was like his favorite staffer, and sometimes I was like persona non grata, whatever, right? Okay, I can live with that. It's not easy, but I can live with it. Right. So then I'm munching on fortune cookies, right? Broken fortune cookies. And I, because you can't serve them, so I might as well eat them. And I pull out one of the fortunes and it says, "You will achieve great wisdom." And he's just doing a crossword puzzle right next to me, right? I said, "You will achieve great wisdom." I said, "I'd rather be stupid and rich." And he says, "Well, you're halfway there." And it was so fast. And it wasn't even like he was like still writing out the word on the crossword puzzle, right? And he just says, "Well, you're halfway there." And how do you not respect that? How do you not laugh your ass off at how fast that was? It was just like instant. And I was just like, well played, sir. Well played. Right? Like, in
your case, it was just a mild joke. Like, if you can't handle your liquor, get back. If you can't handle drinking with the boys, get back in the kitchen. You could have said something like, boys, I thought it was at a baby shower. I don't know. But anyway.
Or like, boys, I don't know. I guess you guys are just like, you want to get rid of the ladies so you can prep for your butt orgy later. So anything other than setting somebody on fire.
Which is not a teachable moment for men, ladies.
It's not a teachable moment for anyone. Well, no, it is a teachable moment for men, right? Women are fucking psychos.
Well, it's not even, this woman could be an isolated incident, but then the woman who called her a diva has something over 300, probably like 500,000 likes on the comment. And then you have all the people who are excusing it, who are not just engaging in snarking at the black humor, right? But they also want to have the high ground. This is what's infuriating. You want to be able to laugh at this guy's suffering at the same time as still being regarded as the most empathetic sex, and also the ones who are the real victims.
And also the ones really can't do anything wrong.
Yes, and also the ones who really can't do any. You want so many self-contradictory things. I'm surprised that you haven't given yourselves a spontaneous cognitive dissonance lobotomy. Okay.
Okay, lobotomizing women might actually
improve things. All right, I'm gonna play this clip from Eric Schmidt, who happens to be one of those. You know what? I'll just do the give you the.
I learned some things from him, not like just the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was on, I forget what podcast he was on, but yeah, he was talking about equalization and how it works, and it's insane how it works.
I don't know. I think he's a liberal, so I can't get really a good, but I don't really have a good grasp.
Oh, maybe it's a different guy who looks exactly the same.
It might be the same guy. I don't know much about him outside of this particular video and what it reveals. And it's, there's a lot of stuff. But
I'll know when he starts talking if it's the same guy.
This is what I zeroed in, because I've been thinking about what it is that the plans that Carney has for Canada. And also I think Trump has plans for Canada, even though he said in their meeting that there's nothing that Canada has that the US wants. I think he's playing it very cool.
No, he told Danielle Smith the opposite.
Yeah. So he's playing it like I think he's keeping his cards a little bit closer to his chest, although I do think he genuinely preferred Carney getting in. And the reason why is it calls to mind like a biblical story of King Solomon. And so the story goes that two women who both had a claim on an infant came to King Solomon and said, well, you have to decide who gets this baby, because we both say that we're its mother and only one of us really can be. So King Solomon sort of takes the baby and looks at it and turns it around and says, how about we split it? You can split the baby between the two of you. And the real mother just goes, no, you can't do that. I'll give it up. I'd rather give it up than see it split. And then the false mother says, oh, which way? Should we split it like navel, crosswise, diagonally? And I think that Polyev is the true mother and Carney is the false mother. And that this is my conjecture, and Karen will get on my ass if she thinks it's total bullshit. I think that he may be in the market for a split Canada, and I'm going to explain why I think that. But first, let's listen to this, because this is where I sort of got the idea, or started to get the inkling.
I then, in the spirit of full disclosure, went to the White House on Friday and told them that we need to become best friends with Canada, because Canada has really nice people, helped invent AI, and lots of hydropower. Because we as a country do not have enough power to do this. The alternative is to have the Arabs fund it.
Okay. And I was like, Now, of course, this was 7 months ago, so I think he would have been going to the Biden White House, but I'm sure that there are advisors who are saying similar things to Trump as well. And also hydropower, that's bullshit. Like, not where the power is. The power is
hydropower. Okay. Okay. I was talking to Brian about this before the show.
Okay.
Equalization payments, right? How they decide what a have province and a have not province is, who should pay and who should receive, is decided by what's called revenue capacity, right? The amount of revenue a provincial government can collect from all of its various sources, like the tax base and royalties from resource extraction and production and things like that, right? Okay, so why does Alberta always have to pay? And why does Quebec and Ontario get to receive? Even though they are net exporters of energy and their governments collect $40,000 per gigawatt hour for hydroelectricity. Well, because for some fucked up reason, non-renewable resources, when they're extracted and sold, right, those are considered part of a province's revenue capacity. But renewable resources like hydroelectricity, which will perpetuate until there's no more water running down the river, okay, those are not factored in to a province's revenue capacity, right? So Ontario could generate 5 times more fucking revenue from energy, right? But as long as it's renewable energy, right, they'll never have to be a payer. They will only be a receiver of equalization. And every barrel that gets extracted out of the ground in Alberta and can't be replaced, okay, every barrel, we have to fork over money to the rest of the fucking country.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that be it as it may. Like that.
And why is that the case? Well, because Ontario and Quebec don't really drill for oil or natural gas. No, their entire economies are driven by hydroelectric power.
Do they have substantial reserves?
They don't. I don't know that they have substantial reserves. If they do, they'd be difficult to get to because they're part of the Canada Shield.
Yeah.
So they're like it's a tough nut to crack. But
I mean, go ahead.
They have Ontario has 50% more population. No, has 3 times the population that Alberta does, and 4 times as many senators. Quebec has twice the population Alberta does, and 4 times as many senators. The Maritimes combined has less than half the population Alberta does, and has 4 times as many fucking senators. Okay? Yeah. No, and so, and you look at it, 132,000 people on average in a electoral riding in Alberta, 121,000 in Ontario, 39,000 in PEI. Right? This is not representative government. And you know what? It seems like all of the have-not provinces that receive Western money, right? They just keep voting to gerrymander the entire country so they can keep receiving more money from the producers.
And that's why Western Canada is really pissed off.
Oh, yeah. No, we're sick of it. I'm sick of Ontario deciding our elections. And Doug Ford, don't even get me fucking started. God took the wrong brother.
Well, I think maybe cocaine took the brother, but maybe you're right. Or do they both do it? I don't know.
No, okay. Rob Ford, he was a hot fucking mess, but at least he freaking knew what was. I mean, Rob Ford was the guy who was accused of telling a city councilwoman, he was like the mayor of Toronto, accused of telling a city councilwoman that he wanted to eat her pussy. And when he was confronted by the press, he said, "Why would I say that? I have plenty to eat at home." And I was like, you know what? That guy, and
that's my man.
Yeah, no. If you can say that in front of news cameras, why would I say that? I have plenty to eat at home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he was like Trump, he was like Ralph Klein, right? Like
just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, these are the guys who and the reason why Poilievre freaking lost is because
he gave too much of a fuck. But I think that
no. He didn't call Trump. You know who called Trump? You know who called Trump? Carney called Trump.
Well, of course, and he also
Carney called Trump
while he was campaigning on elbows up going to the bat with Trump, he was dropping the tariffs.
Yes, he called Trump and he said, if I'm going to win, I need to run on an anti-Trump platform, right? But don't take it personally and don't take it seriously. It's not how I really feel. And as a gesture of good faith, I'm going to quietly drop almost all of the tariffs, the retaliatory tariffs, except for the ones on fucking food for some fucked up reason. Okay. And yeah, see, so here you go, right? And I'm willing to play ball. And then he'd get in front of the crowds and he'd be like, elbows up, elbows up.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If he's willing to do that, if he's willing to lie to that degree, how much is happening behind the scenes that we don't even know about? Because I can look at the overall pressures, right? There's certain things that are happening. This is why I wanted to lay out my theory. It's getting a bit late, so I'm probably going to have to get into it. But anyway, so Edward, what was his name? Eric Schmidt talks about the US making friends with Canada because AI needs a lot of resources. Now, I understand hydro. I think that he said that because he's a liberal. Was he the guy that you were thinking about, or is it just?
I'd have to hear him talk more.
Okay, just let's hear in a few more seconds.
I like the Arabs personally. I spent lots of time there, right? But they're not going to adhere to our national security rules. Whereas...
Okay. So it doesn't matter if you don't identify him. Anyway, he's basically said, let's cozy up to Canada because they have the resources necessary to run AI. And I think that
they're literally installing a data center in
Alberta.
In Greenview, because there's a natural gas deposit right there, and they'll be able to it, and it's northern Alberta, it's near Grand Prairie, so it's cold all winter, and in the summer it's going to be easy to air condition. And Greenview, Alberta right now, houses are going for like $500,000 because everybody's gearing up for this big project. Kevin O'Leary is
and they put it in Alberta because of the energy.
Because of the energy, and because Danielle Smith defends Alberta's sovereignty against Ottawa.
Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, Mo does as well. It's just he's much more quiet about it. And of course, you guys, if you guys are listening and you're Americans, both myself and Karen, I'm from Saskatchewan, or at least I live in Saskatchewan, and Karen's from Alberta. Alberta's the one in the news about, maybe becoming the 51st state or ceding. But the thing is that if Alberta cedes, they're going to take Saskatchewan. And
because actually Saskatchewan is more in favor of separating.
Yeah. We just don't, nobody really talks about us. We're just sort of quietly waiting for our move.
Because all you are is just like flat prairies and train tracks, Alison. That's your entire province, and one man-made ski hill.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if you guys hadn't stole our oil, I'd drink your milkshake. Maybe we would have had 2 man-made ski hills. There you go.
How did we steal your oil?
You sucked out the reservoirs between, like, there was a line, and you sucked out. I drink your milkshake. Alberta drank our milkshake. Well, part of it anyway. We still got plenty of milkshake, so it's good. But anyway,
it was like in There Will Be Blood when the guy, the farmer, finally says, "Okay, I'm willing."
No, it was the preacher. I'm willing to sell you my land, and he's like, Daniel Day-Lewis, while eating everything in sight, says, "I drink your milkshake. I drink it right up."
Yeah, I already drained your deposits. The deposits don't respect property lines.
They don't respect property lines, and neither does Alberta. But anyway, if Alberta cedes, Saskatchewan's going to go with it. Probably a good part of Manitoba and BC at this point.
Yeah, southern Manitoba maybe, and northern BC. It'll be Diagolon.
Yeah, it's right here. I'll show you this. Northern Saskatchewan, that's bullshit. That's just like 12 people voted. So they're coming with us too. But anyway, if I think you guys can see this now. Yeah, looks like you probably can. This is a diagolon, but essentially it is the electoral map. Now in Canada, blue means red and red means blue. So blue is conservative, red is liberal. And in our case, conservative just means cares about the Canadian citizen rather than their globalist agenda and their desire to make money for themselves. But anyway, so this is how it sort of fell out. Now again, this Alberta is the one. So if you go from the left, it's British Columbia.
You look at British Columbia. There's that little patch of red down there. That's like the Greater Vancouver Regional District.
Yeah, they
can go fuck themselves. Yeah, they can stay part of Canada. That's fine.
Yeah. Then after that is Alberta, and then Saskatchewan is the sort of rectangular one between Alberta and Manitoba, which is the one that borders the Hudson's Bay. Now, the top of Saskatchewan, that I think is just sort of might actually be gerrymandering. They changed some stuff, but that is not like the top of Saskatchewan has almost nobody in it. So that's the decision of very few people to go red. But regardless, if Alberta cedes, then BC is likely to go. Saskatchewan is likely to go, and Manitoba is likely to go. So we actually could be probably a functional country because we would have 2 deep sea ports. Yeah. But regardless, I just wanted to notice. Well, actually, I'll get into this in a bit. But this is essentially this is what I'm saying is the splitting of the baby, the splitting of the pig. And let me get into why. So we have the AI center in Alberta, opening up in Alberta. And I believe that Canada's resources, Western Canada's resources in particular, are becoming really important. And the reason why is I think that Trump may actually have a plan. I know that's shocking to people. He seems to be just going off half-cocked. But
no, nothing that he does is half-cocked.
Yeah, he's, honestly, I think he's probably too. If he can be that clever with a joke, I'm pretty sure he's pretty clever. But here's what I think is happening. And I don't say this with much relish because Trump is not my president. And I don't mean that as in I wouldn't have voted for him. I mean that literally. I'm a Canadian, so he's not my leader. He doesn't have my interests in mind. And I know that. So when I talk about him being smart, it's not because I'm like, I'm just blowing smoke up his ass. It's because you have to do that in order to understand the effect he's going to have on your life, right? And, it's not necessarily going to be positive, but nor do I expect him to have a necessarily positive effect on Canadians. He could possibly or not, but, you want to understand where he's coming from. And this is where I believe he's coming from. I think he's transitioning from a debt-based system to a potentially resource-based system. And, like the Scandinavian countries, they have a lot of social programs based on income from resources. And the reason why I say that is because this debt-based system is expiring. Like we look at what's happening in the Japanese bond market. Like the 40-year bond is like hyperbolic, right? And Japan owns a lot of US debt. In fact, they are the biggest foreign debtor. So if Japan starts to crater, it's likely, and the other thing is that Japan is the leading edge of this kind of monetization of the debt. And what I mean by that is that the central bank of a country, I should slow down. Jonathan tells me to slow down so people can absorb what I'm trying to say. But a central bank will purchase the bonds of the government that it is a central bank of. So like the Bank of Canada will purchase the bonds of the Canadian bonds in order to keep the interest rates low. And America's done that. I think Japan was the first to start doing that. And now they're going off a cliff because no one will buy their 40-year bonds.
Yep.
And this is a serious problem, like really serious. Think complete annihilation of everything serious. Yeah. And for somebody to sit in the Oval Office and just go, Heidily ho, hoity hum, let's just keep business as usual. That is insanity.
Yeah.
Right. You have to do something in response to this kind of a crisis. And what I think Trump is doing is, again, he's transitioning away from a debt-based system. He's actually dealing with multiple crises. One, there is a huge debt bubble. There is the bond crisis in the Japanese market, which was foreseeable.
Yeah, no, and China dumped a whole bunch of freaking US
China
bonds.
dumped. That's probably not even that really important, but this year, for example, there's 9 trillion of U.S. treasuries that are going to have to be refinanced. So there is the end of this kind of system.
And refinanced at a higher interest rate because Jerome Powell keeps refusing to lower the interest rate because even though he did it 50 basis points in September of last year to try and help Kamala win, right? Oh, I'm going to lower it by 0.5%, right? The interest rates, even though everybody told him it's going to it's going to restart inflation, which it did, right? Yeah, he did it anyway. And now he's just absolutely refusing, despite inflation coming down, continuing on the decline, jobs up, inflation down, right? He's still refusing to do it because the dude is a fucking partisan. And anytime Trump is like, I want to fire that guy, everybody's like, ah.
Yeah. Well, that be it as it may, even lowering interest rates is a stopgap.
Yeah.
Right? This is expiring. This system is expiring. Everybody has a shit ton of debt and nobody has the productivity to pay it.
Yeah.
And then there's the other crisis, which is AI. And what AI is doing, AI and not just automation, but like humanoid robots, what they're doing, for example, if they bring back factories to the US, in many cases, they're going to be completely automated. So they work completely in the dark with no people in them. So it's not going to end up having jobs because these factories are going to be completely automated. And AI is removing white collar jobs. And what it's doing is some jobs it's completely removing, other jobs it's making the people in the jobs so efficient or productive that they don't need to hire new people. So it's actually slashing the lower rungs of the career ladders for multiple industries, which means young people are not getting jobs. So in the face of this, in the face of the debt bubble bursting, in the face of a potentially tsunami of unemployment, right? Because of the way the world is going forward, the AI, and in the face of the absolute hunger of AI for resources, it's going to end up being that resources are one of the most valuable things. I mean, they're very valuable, but it's almost like they're going to be a form of currency in and of themselves. And I guess they already are, but even more so. So we have these crises that they're just like falling off a cliff. So we have to do something. What do you do? Well, first of all, if your income and the tax revenue of the US, the vast majority of it comes from income tax and things related to income, like Social Security and Medicaid, which comes out of the corporations, I believe, for each person. And then also you have the corporate income tax. So the vast majority of tax income in the States is income tax of various forms. So what happens when that reduces massively? Well, you want to get ahead of that. And in some ways, you want to monetize consumption instead, so that you are actually putting a tax on the consumption of goods rather than income, if you know that your income is going to go down. That's a stopgap, though. And it could also just be putting feelers out, creating chaos, just seeing what you can get done. So that's where I think the tariffs come in. It's to create a new income stream. Either maybe it can replace income tax. I don't think it can. Or alternatively, it can give you some time. But essentially, it's monetizing consumption. It's getting rid of any kind of counter, like a punishment. I don't want to say punishment, but disincentive to income, to productivity, and
that's okay. You look at Florida, right? They don't have a state income tax. How do they function as a state? With property taxes and sales taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they probably don't put an income tax in because consider the average age of the people in Florida.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, why would you? But it's like, yeah, no, it's property taxes and sales taxes, consumption taxes, right? And also fines and fees. Right? So, you get pulled over, you get a fine, you pay the fine, and that goes to the government.
What I think Trump is doing with all of this is that he is racing ahead of the boulder that is this debt system. And he's able to do that because the US has something called exorbitant privilege, which means that the US almost always gets lower interest rates than everybody else, except for Japan. They were like considered a safe haven, a low interest, the safest, most stable. And now what the hell, but what I'm saying is that the US can borrow at like 2% interest, for example, and then it can lend to a place like Belize. No, I just threw that out at like 8%. So it could borrow $1 million, lend, have to pay 22% interest on it, then lend something like, I guess, 200,000 to Belize and charge them 10% interest, and their loan to Belize actually pays the interest on their what they've borrowed. So then they can take 800,000 and do Ugandan underwater basket weaving for nematodes, that kind of thing, for trans nematodes. Go ahead.
It's all fictional because money is just an agreement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's just made up by debt. Like it's like I said, it's a debt.
No, it's an agreement. It's it's like in Dumb and Dumber. It's like that scene in Dumb and Dumber when she's like, "Oh, you have my briefcase," and he opens it and it's full of like IOUs, right? Oh yeah, no, here you go. It was $1 million. Now it's just $1 million worth of IOUs from like retard 1 and retard 2.
Yeah, essentially.
Right? Yeah.
And you got to get ahead of it somehow. And honestly, if we move to a resource-based system, China will have to, as opposed to like a productivity-based system, China's not going to be number 2.
China is not going to be able to afford to continue the way it's going. No. And the problem is too with Canada is that Canada has adopted a Chinese model in certain respects in terms of let's subsidize our industry with taxpayer money, right? Because that makes it competitive in the US market, our products competitive in the US market. And then we will use that ability to undersell the competition in the US market to replenish what we are paying out in subsidies to like artificially make that happen. Yeah. It's fucking, it's the most retarded, like just fucking get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Let the private sector do what the private sector is going to do within reason. Okay. Let's like have reasonable consolidated regulation. I should not have to if I want to fucking drill a hole in my yard. Okay. For whatever reason, I should not have to fill out permits fill out permit applications with the city, with the province, with the fucking federal government, right? Pay for all of that just to just to work in my yard, just to drill a post hole in my fucking yard, right? And that is what industry has to deal with. Oh, yeah, no, I have to fill out the same fucking application for the municipal permit or the county permit, and then the provincial permit, and then the federal permit, and it's going to take 2 years, right, before I get my applications all approved, if they actually are approved, and maybe one of them has some kind of issue with what I want to do, and the other two are just fine, right? Yeah, no. This is just get the fuck out of the way and let the private sector do the work, right? Like this is Carney's thing, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? We have a housing crisis, an affordable housing crisis in Canada. You know what? Brookfield Asset Management owns Modulaire Group, and Modulaire Group builds modular housing, right? And we could set up Trailer Park 2.0 on the outskirts of all the urban centers in the country, right? And people can live in tiny houses that they rent from the government, because the government will pay for all of this, right? And they can rent their tiny houses and they can live there. And if they're lucky, we will build them a Walmart and a Bug Burger joint within walking distance. And but we won't have to step over the poors when we're walking to like freaking Chop or Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, right? Yeah, no, we won't have to. We like all of those poors, they'll be like shuffled to the edge of fucking town, right? And I'm just like, or you could just let the Sikh entrepreneur put in infill, tear down these 1952 built bungalows, right? And put up duplexes and fourplexes in an already established neighborhood that evolved organically to be a 15-minute city.
Well, yes, regulation is a big problem in Canada. If you've ever watched, there's this young couple that's trying to build a house in Vancouver. I don't recall their names, but I've been following their story. And they have dealt with, I think, hundreds of thousands of dollars of regulation. And they didn't actually build it. They wouldn't have been able to build a house. What they did is they took over a house that was built in the 50s and they renovated it. And that's, that is being beset with all kinds of regulatory nightmares.
You want to hear something fucking retarded about Vancouver? So I knew some people who bought a house in Vancouver back when things were still sane, right? And they planted a tree in their yard, right? Inside the property line. And then the tree got kind of old and sickly, and it was dropping needles everywhere, and they were tracking needles into their house, and it looked like it, in the wind it might blow over, and so they wanted to cut it down. They weren't allowed to cut down the tree that they owned and planted themselves. They were not allowed to cut it down, even though it was diseased. Yeah, even though it was a risk to their home, they were not allowed to cut it down.
Yeah.
The city was like, you're not allowed to cut down trees that you planted in your own yard.
Yeah, that's Canada for you. So regulation in Canada is basically stifling growth. That's why you really need to be in a province where the provincial leader has decided to go to war against the federal government. Because actually somebody, an American, I think it was an American who described the difference. In America, Oklahoma doesn't have to ask the federal government for permission to put a pipeline to Texas.
No,
you don't. And this is the thing. In Canada, Alberta has to ask permission to put a pipeline to BC. Yeah. Right? This is
to Alberta or to Saskatchewan, yeah.
And so this is the thing. When people say, "Oh, well, you're a conservative," first of all, I'm not a conservative. I am conservative only. I only vote conservative out of self-preservation,
necessity. Yeah.
Yeah. When you threaten us with like a democratic a Democratic president, you realize even under a Democratic president, Alberta would have more autonomy than it does now. Like, and we'd have the protection of the Constitution. So yeah, it's like, I don't care. Like,
yeah,
and also we'd be part of a culture of entrepreneurship that wants to go and get shit done.
Well, what is infuriating too is before Trump imposed the tariffs, right? It was easier and cheaper for every province to export goods to the US than to export them across
the provincial
boundary to another province.
Yeah, but I wanted to get back into this AI stuff. So one of the problems with bringing back factories is, again, they're being completely automated in AI. And you remember, Karen, when you were working with Mike to create this kind of a spreadsheet for a Microsoft Office for factories?
Yeah.
But I was like, when I was thinking about it, it's you're going to get a lot of opposition because people want that kind of busy work, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, they don't want to. Okay. So the project was to make it so that you eliminated, you carried around your tablet around say a facility like a potash plant or refinery or whatever, right? And these are largely automated systems and everything, right? Water treatment plant, whatever, right? And you would carry, and you have your checklists, and you would be able to check off all of your check things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you would hit send, and it would just upload it to the database instead of you having to do it on paper and then bring it across the facility, which can be like very, very large. It can be like a kilometer or bigger in size, to the office, and have someone manually enter your freaking things into the database, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people making the decision as to whether to adopt the software, like this system, were the people who were going to be engineered out of a job.
Yes.
So of course they said, no, this would be completely unreliable, and it's not secure. It's not cyber secure. And, even though it eliminates human error, and it's completely fucking secure, right? Because the fewer people you have who have access to input into the system, the more secure your system is.
Yes, but that's what's happening with AI. Is like, I was thinking about what would be the pain point that your system would solve, and it would be payroll. So the pain point that AI solves is payroll, like having to pay so many people for work that can be done with a lot fewer people, right?
Yeah.
That's what I think is happening with AI. And this is the second part of this kind of crisis that needs to be managed, which is why I think, well, not only is AI going to be completely changing government revenues going forward, if it does have a massive impact on unemployment, and it's looking like it will, it also requires an incredible amount of energy. So if you want to be an AI leader, you practically have to be a resource-rich country. And while the US is resource rich, if you actually look at resources versus population, it's not actually the top of the list. I think Greenland is. What a surprise, huh?
And then I know. It's so weird that
it's Canada.
Trump,
yeah.
It's so weird that Trump has his eye on Greenland. I mean, like, okay, and then on top of that, okay, if we're supposed to believe that Russia is the big baddie in the world, right? Go look at a polar map, right? Most people never look at a polar map. Go look at a map of the North Pole and look at how close Russia is. Because I mean, like, honestly, you look at a map, like a map of the world, like a cylindrical map, right? And it's like, well, Russia's like super far away from North America. I mean, they're way on the right side of the map, and we're way on the left side of the map, right? But it really is like Sarah Palin said, I can see Russia from my front porch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody laughed at her, but no, that's true. And you look at Greenland. Well, Greenland is situated like halfway between northern Canada, the north coast of Canada, and the north coast of Russia, right? It's like right in between. And if you believe in climate change, if you believe that the globe is warming and the ice caps are melting, well, there's going to be a lot of traffic through the Arctic Sea.
Yep.
Both cargo and military vessels.
Yep. Okay. So actually, I probably should, before we continue, because I want to get into how Trump and Carney are going to split Canada. And this is my, this is my feelers are out. This is what I'm thinking is going to happen, or what might be going on behind the scenes. As we know, Carney is already very intimate with Trump. I mean that in like a business sense, right? He knows how to play the field. He knows how to.
He bailed out the Kushner companies.
Yeah, he bailed, which is Trump's son-in-law. And also he contacted Trump during the time where he was saying, we're going to go elbows up. And he probably said something like Karen said, he probably told Trump, I got to get elected. So let's play mean, or I'm going to play a little mean in public, but know that I am going to work with you all the way. So knowing that, I'm curious about how Carney is going to work with Trump to cut up Canada and what their ultimate goal in doing so is. But before we get into that, I want to remind everyone, if you want to send us a message, the very best way to send us a message is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And speaking of that, I want to give a big thanks to Pepito for $25. Thank you, Pepito. And if you would like to join our very generous supporters, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/support. Now let's get into what I think they are doing, what they're up to, what these bosom buddies have in store for Canada. What the deal, the backroom deal that Carney and Trump have done for the Canadian people. Well, two perhaps. And again, like, I'm not condemning Trump. Like, he's going to play his cards. He's going to play hardball, and he's going to do it for the American people. It's too bad that Canadians don't have the equivalent for Canada.
Yeah, that's what I always, whenever I get an interview on U.S. radio and they're like, do you blame Trump for Carney winning? And I'm like, yeah, I blame him, but like, I don't blame him.
Yeah, you can't blame him. He is responsible.
Yeah, he's not the president of Canada. He doesn't have, he's looking after his own people.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Right. He's looking after his own people. And although that I'm not a fan of Trump, I do recognize that he is a smart man. He has plans. He is capable of engaging in some chicanery. It's almost like, if anybody's watched Better Call Saul, the almost perpetual con that they engage in is to pretend that they are at odds in order for them to push a third position, which is the one that they actually want. And that's like a classic con. And honestly, hats off to Carney and Trump. Classic con, well executed. The idiots were taken in. But let's figure out what they're now that we've put that aside. Let's figure out what they're up to. And again, like, Carney called Trump while he was talking about elbows up and got rid of the tariffs and probably said, "Yeah, let's work together."
No, he got rid of the tariffs and didn't tell Canada.
He didn't tell Canada, but he probably told Trump, which is why when Trump talked about it was a good meeting and how he was going to speak again to Carney, like, guys, wake up. This is your guy. He played you. He snowed you. And in particular, he snowed, what was it, boomer women? Like, the ones who were most likely to buy into the Nigerian prince scams?
Yeah, no, the TDS fucking morons were the ones who voted for Carney and his elbows up lie, right? And it's I'm just like, okay, like, I just wanted Polyev, and let's be clear, there was never going to be any elbows up, right? Okay, no. We have
Yeah, that's what's really ironic. Let me say this. That's what's really ironic. This was never going to happen. If you just thought through this logically, you're like, well, Canada doesn't have leverage.
Canada has 12% of the population of the US and 8% of their GDP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for every $1 an American produces, a Canadian produces 66 cents. US.
Yeah. We're
US.
not gonna.
Yeah, no. We're 1/10 the population, right? And we're 1 freaking 13th or 14th the freaking GDP. Like, I'm sorry, right? There was never gonna be stand up to Trump. You can take all the Kentucky bourbon off the that you already fucking bought and paid for off the shelves of your liquor store, Doug Ford, right? You can take that off the shelves. It's puerile and stupid. Okay,
It was never going to be.
It doesn't freaking. You think Kentucky cares? No, because they got all kinds of freaking clients everywhere. They got the entire U.S. market. No tariffs, no trade barriers, right? They got other provinces who aren't fucking as stupid as you, Doug Ford, right? You know, you think you're gonna like turn off the lights to 1.5 million fucking homes in New England? Really? You're gonna turn off the electricity. Where's the electricity gonna go? Anybody who knows how electricity works knows you can't just turn off the electricity.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was never.
It's gotta go somewhere.
It's never gonna happen. Like, this is never going to happen. So they bought a feeling in the moment, and he didn't even have the integrity to pretend with his first meeting. Carney didn't even have the integrity to pretend with his first meeting with Trump that he was anything.
There's some real estate properties that are just not for sale.
Yeah, like, but you know, we can maybe arrange that. That's the sense I got when he laughed at Trump saying never say never. Ugh. Anyway, so this is what I think is going on with the split. All right. So for Trump, of course, the West, which you're right here. This is the image that I have. It doesn't show up on the shorts. So it's basically the map of Canada. Let me see if it does. No, it doesn't. Sorry,
it's a map of Diagolon other than the Yukon. Right.
So basically, it shows
if we were able to convince Yukon, then we would actually have a diagonal connection between Alaska and the mainland of the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. So it basically shows the electoral map of Canada in the recent election, and it shows that BC went conservative, Alberta went conservative, Saskatchewan went conservative, just forget about the north, that's nobody. And then Manitoba went conservative, parts of Ontario too. And yeah, well, Quebec always goes Quebec.
Okay, what's up there in the north of Manitoba? NDP?
No, that's just I think it's just less conservative.
Oh, so they went
yeah, they went conservative. So basically, all of eastern or western Canada is conservative,
including Western Ontario.
Yeah, including Western Ontario. I guess we have to take them with us. Yeah, but what I wanted to point out is there's this other map. Okay, so this is the boreal forest, which is also diagonal. Now, the reason why I'm putting up this map is because of what I think Carney is getting out of the deal. Like, Trump and Carney have been, elbows up, more like rubbing elbows. And I think what's going to happen is Trump will get the western half, which is the resource-rich part, so the western provinces. And Carney's going to get the eastern half. And what he's going to do is he's going to deindustrialize the eastern half so that, people will be living bare subsistence, basically, like Karen was saying. You're gonna have shoe boxes and eat bug burgers, and you'll
Get
be sharing
back in your pod and eat your bug
and
burger.
it's not just gonna be the poor people. So I mean, I think the boomers need to take note. Now, I'm not a boomer. Me and Karen are Gen X, and we definitely voted for conservative. Our generation actually was the one that voted most conservative, probably because we've seen some shit. And but anyway, so the boomer women should take note. They're going to put in a home equity tax, and they are going to drive up the two things that are going to become Eastern Kazakhstan's economy are selling carbon taxes, which the way that
carbon credits, yes.
Carbon credits, sorry. Selling carbon credits.
Which Brookfield owns a whole bunch of companies that have carbon credits to sell, just in case you were interested.
What a surprise. So essentially Eastern Canada, and this is if this doesn't happen, then basically they'll just hamstring the development of the West, and we'll just continue to be an appendix waiting for some sovereign state to decide that our resources are worth an invasion. But anyway, regardless, so what he's going to do is deindustrialization, right? That's the big thing, because he wants to make Canada, or sorry, he wants to create the most carbon credits. And it's not just the fact that people aren't actually using fossil fuels. It's also the boreal forest, which is a giant carbon sink. It's currently what's making Canada carbon negative already. So if you have the boreal forest, and then you basically deindustrialize, and you can facilitate that by paying off industries that don't really do anything, like the EV industry in Ontario, and just print some money and give it to them, and then you just deindustrialize so that you're spending, or the people have the least. They don't use any carbon. They're in, like Karen was saying, they're 15-minute ghettos, eating their bug burgers, and they're reduced to being able to wherever they can walk or cycle, and they're not spending any carbon credits, right? So you deindustrialize, you get more carbon credits, you sell them, and then the other thing that I believe the economy will be based on of Eastern Carnistan will be foreign sale, real estate foreign sales. And the reason why he's bringing in so many immigrants is to make sure that the real estate prices remain very high, to increase the taxes on the real estate, so that eventually all of those older boomer women get squeezed out of their homes so he can sell them.
No, the equity, the home equity tax.
Yeah, but not just the home equity tax, property tax.
Yeah, property tax and home equity tax. Like, home equity tax is basically, we bought this place for $173,000. We owe $99,000 on it, almost $99,000 on it still, on the principal, right? And so they would want to tax us yearly, right, for the $74,000 worth of equity. Oh, but not the $74,000 worth of equity that we have compared to when we bought it, but what it's worth now. Now it's worth about $305,000, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so now we're going to have to pay taxes on $205,000 every year, because that's our equity, because some assessor came and looked at our crap house and said, you know what, this is worth $305,000 if some Sikh businessman wanted to come and bulldoze it and put up a duplex, right? Okay, that's literally what they want to do. They and the unrealized capital gains tax that the Liberals were proposing, right?
And they're going to do it.
And it's
they've already got a threat narrative around it, ladies. Like boomer ladies, they've already got a threat narrative that you basically won the house lottery unfairly. So why should you be able to benefit when the other generations don't? And believe me, the other generations are not very happy with you right now.
Yeah,
so
no.
we've already got a threat narrative, and that means it's well on its way to being done.
Yeah, no, and my mom, she's like 82, right?
Mm.
And when Carney got elected, she was like, what the fuck is with these people? Don't they care about their children?
Mm.
Like, are they retards?
And it's not even a left or right issue. The guy only has his own interests in mind. So
yeah,
anyway,
no, he's heavily invested in all of the projects that he's planning on subsidizing.
And he's proposing for Canada. So this is what I think is going to happen. They're going to split the baby. They're going to split the pig. The West, with all of its resources, is going to go south.
Thank fucking God.
Yeah, I mean,
At least we'll be free from Ottawa.
I don't give a fuck from this at this point.
Like, ask me how
exhaustion.
Ask me how I'd vote in a separation referendum if it were held tomorrow. Ask me how I'd vote.
I don't think I need to. But regardless, we're either going to go separate or we're going to go south. And this is the best case scenario for the West, I'll be honest. Because all I can see if we stay is, I mean, we'll just be an appendix. Nothing will get better. None of our resources will be developed. Our GDP will decline. Our property taxes will increase, and we're going to be squeezed out. Like, out of our own. Go ahead.
Let me tell you this joke. I don't know if I've told you this joke before, but this is the joke that describes the plight of Alberta and the West in Canada. So there's this guy. He goes to visit a friend who has a farm, and he notices that there's a pen full of pigs over there, right? But there's a pig running loose in the yard on 2 wooden legs, right? And he's like, what's with the pig? And his farmer friend says, oh, that pig, she's something amazing. She's amazing, smart, and useful, right? See that vegetable garden over there? Every spring, she tills the soil with her snout, and then she plows the rows, and then all season long, right? She walks between the rows and weeds it. She never touches any of the good stuff. She only eats the weeds. She's great. And he's like, oh, but how did she lose her legs? And there's, oh yeah, no, that's another story. But she's not just useful and smart. She's a hero too. Last winter, I had a gas leak in the house, right? I was sleeping. She smelt it. She broke down the door and she pulled me outside just in time, right? And, she saved my life. Saved my life, that pig. And he's like, oh, was there an explosion? Right? Is that how she lost her legs? No. But then this spring, I fell off the combine, and she heard me crying for help. She came running. She dragged me to safety before my legs could be mangled. Oh, so that's how she lost her legs. Nope. Well, so how did she lose her legs? Well, you can't eat a pig like that all at once, can you?
A good thing all at once, right? Yeah. Okay, so basically Carney's going to have the East. He's going to sell carbon credits, which, is going to enrich him immensely. The other part of the economy is going to be Canadian real estate sales to foreign investors. And yes, he's going to bring in immigrants. I was wondering, why the hell are you wanting to bring in another 100 million immigrants? And I'm like, well, what possible
100,000?
What? No, he wants to bring the
the 2030 project.
So 80 million immigrants he wants to bring in. I'm like, why would you, at this point, considering everything that's stressed, why? And it's obvious, because that will keep the stress on the housing market, which will keep the prices up, which will keep the property tax up. Everybody who's on the income that older people have, fixed income, is going to at some point get squeezed out of their own homes. And then when, old Granny who voted Carney, she gets squeezed out of her home and she's facing homelessness. she'll get a liberal will give her a maid pamphlet. Here you go.
Yeah.
Problem solves itself, right? So
or
I
a
think
modular rental.
Yeah, so I think that's essentially what his plan is. He's going to sell carbon credits, which requires deindustrialization. He's going to sell real estate, which requires keeping real estate prices high and squeezing already existing owners, out of their properties. So that's the future of Eastern Canada. It'll also be the future of Western Canada, except like I said, we'll be just like this resource, like we'll be this appendix with all of these resources going nowhere, waiting for some sovereign state to say, hey, the economy is a disaster. The debt system has imploded. We got this gigantic fat ham sitting on the other side of the Arctic Ocean. Let's start sharpening the knives.
No, I think honestly, I think by 2026, by mid 2026, the appetite for separation in Saskatchewan, Quebec, and even BC is going to be high enough that we're going to do it.
And honestly, I'm not too worried about the West, because no matter what, we'll always have these resources.
Well, we won't always have them because they're non-renewable, except for the forest. The forest is renewable, but
yeah. But that's what I think it is. You got the boreal forest is itself a moneymaker because of carbon credits. You got the potential of deindustrializing Ontario because the auto industry is disappearing, and you can pacify them with monopoly money, printing some monopoly money and giving it to the industry, and yeah, so it's like perfect. The East.
Well, 5 out of 7 freaking green energy EV projects. 5 out of 7 are either bankrupt, like canceled, or indefinitely postponed.
Yeah. So
right? Federally subsidized projects. So the government poured billions of dollars into this, right? And none of it's paid off. It's like Solyndra all over again, right? Solyndra, Canada style, right? You just pour money into this green energy freaking bullshit, taxpayer money, and then it even with the subsidies, even with the extra help, the extra boost, it can't fucking pay for itself. And and people are saying, oh well, the appetite for electric vehicles is seems to be like tapering off. And it's like, well, yeah, because the electric vehicles, the people who were going to buy them already bought them. Right? Because there was no market for electric vehicles, right? If there were no electric vehicles, the people who bought electric vehicles would have just bought gas vehicles. They would have just bought Honda Civics or Honda CRVs or Toyota Camrys, right? Or RAV4s or some kind of fuel efficient freaking low emissions vehicle, right? Like a freaking Yaris or whatever, right? Some kind of, compact that like is good on gas and gets you where you need to go, right? That's what they would have bought, right? Because, like the electric vehicle thing, anybody who looks into it too, right? Like, what do we do with those batteries? Right? What do we do with those batteries when they're out of charge, when they expire? We send them to fucking India. So 12-year-olds can take them apart and try and like sort through their toxic minerals, right? How do we get the minerals for those batteries, right? Oh, yeah, no. Google China's cancer villages, right? We're saving the environment. And by cancer villages, I don't mean just the people whose groundwater is poisoned with carcinogens. I'm talking about the wildlife too, right? All the trees and the flowers and the fucking rabbits and the freaking snakes and the bats, they all have cancer too. Right? And the last thing anybody wants is cancerous bats with fucking coronavirus.
Are they vampire bats?
Insectivorous.
Insectivorous. Oh, so they're already ready for the bug burgers.
No, they're already ready to like have a French kiss with a pangolin in a wet market in China and give us cancer-a-virus. Apparently.
Okay. All right.
Like, okay. I'm just saying, like, this is this is not protecting the environment. The windmills kill birds and bats, okay? The solar panels and the big solar generators, the ones like that are the mirror generators that they put in the desert, yeah, birds fly over that and just burst into flames. Okay? Like, they burst into flames mid-flight. Okay,
Karen.
This is so... all the insects that fly through there, yeah, it's like a giant bug zapper.
Nobody cares about animals in the environment or poisons in the environment.
Okay, and we can't have any.
We all just care about carbon dioxide.
We can't have any new pipelines because even though pipelines are the safest and most efficient way to move fossil fuels, we would rather stick them on trains that run over turtles and bears, okay, and crash into Lac Megan. Right? Okay, we would rather put them on that, right?
Oh, but that's a bonus.
Build a fucking pipeline.
Who wants bears except millennial women? Apparently, they want bears. Nobody else wants bears.
I am really upset about how the feminists aren't sticking up for all the bears that get hit by trains.
Where are you, feminists?
Transporting fucking fossil fuels.
Your bear boyfriends are getting killed by trains transporting fossil fuels and running away from the coof cancer bats. Like, where are you?
And I'm just like, are we fucking okay? And plant food is the new poison.
Yes, I know.
Plant food is pollution. Plant food, right? When I was a kid in the 1970s, we watered our lawn twice a week. I lived in this same area. We watered our lawn twice a week so it wouldn't go brown. Okay?
Yeah, I remember the 70s. Everything was tumbleweeds and deserts before the CO2 came.
Yeah, before the we were at 340 parts per million CO2
Everybody
in
was
the 1970s. We cut the grass.
All we had was tumbleweed salad.
We watered the grass twice a week. We cut the grass every 2 weeks. Right? Okay, that's what we did. I can't get my fucking lawn to stop growing.
No,
I can't. I can't stop it. I could mow it.
Have you tried yelling at it?
I've tried not watering it.
What you need to do is you need to run over your lawn with those carbon chemical carrying trains.
You know what I need to do? I need to sprinkle lithium, cobalt, and coltan all over. I need to pull a China Cancer Village fucking. If they're bound up in radioactive elements, I'm all for it. I'll sprinkle it all across the fucking lawn. I'll put down gravel. I'll never have to mow it again.
Yeah, just
for the parts that get cancer and grow out of control.
Send all your depleted uranium to Karen so that she can create her radioactive moat to keep people away from her.
No, to keep the grass from growing, right?
Oh,
like I'm just like
the death of the bears is optional.
Like the planet is 10% greener, at least. Like last I checked, which was in like 2018 or some shit, was 10% greener than it was in the 1970s.
Plants. Like, didn't you see the invasion of the body snatchers?
Okay, yeah, we don't like plants, except for we're all supposed to go on a plant-based diet. Right?
Yes, that's we want to eat the plants. That's not. We just don't want to be friends with the plants or encourage their growth. Although, you know, some of my best friends are plants.
Except for we have to eat them because we're not supposed to eat meat anymore because meat creates carbon dioxide.
Yes, but
which
eating
feeds
something
plants.
doesn't mean you care about it, right?
Okay, yeah,
It's a
okay, but
holocaust of plants.
no, I care about having food, and if I have to eat plants, right, I want there to be plants, right? I'm looking at this and I'm like, are we fucking retarded, right? Because
No.
all of the green
It's the
plants,
anti-plant agenda. I'm telling you.
all of the green plants that are alive today, okay, evolved to thrive in an atmosphere that is 800 to 1200 parts per million carbon dioxide. Okay, so we're at 420 right now. Our plants globally are at half rations. Half rations. And when you actually look at how plants, why they pump 800 to 1200 parts per million of carbon dioxide into greenhouses, it's because the plants have higher yields and they use less water. Because when you're gasping for air, you lose water, whether you're a human or a plant, right? When you're gasping for air, you lose water. Okay, so I'm just like, you know what? Maybe we should just stop looking at carbon dioxide as a pollutant and start looking at radioactive and carcinogenic materials that we're digging out of the ground to produce allegedly green energy in these windmills that kill bats and birds, and when you put them offshore, they kill whales, right?
Okay, Karen, could you move a little bit to your, I think, right? Sorry about that. You're just sliding off the screen.
Anyway,
and we want to feel the full force of your ranting.
I'm just saying, like, can we stop fucking worrying about the smallest fucking problem, right? Any urban planner will tell you that green foliage cools the earth. Okay? That's why Edmonton has so much green space, right? Is because the city owns a whole bunch of trees, right? And they look after them and they water them and they like prune them and all of that stuff, right? And they're in front of our homes and they shade everything and they turn the sunlight, unlike the pavement that turns the sunlight into heat, they turn the sunlight into food. Okay? Yes.
No, but that you can't trust plants. They're just sitting there photosynthesizing.
Yes.
You know, that's just not trustworthy.
I'm just
can you trust something that doesn't eat other things to survive?
And they cool
like liberals.
They cool the area. Because not just because they shade the area, but because they absorb the sunlight and turn it into something other than heat. Right? Okay, and so we have the deserts receding along the equator, right? The Sahara Desert is getting smaller for the first time.
What are you talking about? That's horrible.
I know. It's really
We're losing
terrible.
our arid biomes.
Okay,
God, I'm freaking itchy
but all of these equatorial people are fleeing the super hot temperatures in their now completely unlivable regions, right? Meanwhile, the polar bears are doing just fine, right? And we're like, we had like freaking Maggie Walsh, right? You remember from like This Hour Has 22 Minutes and Codco?
You know, all this talk of water made me require some water. So keep going. I can hear you.
But yeah, no, she's literally calling for a seal hunt. She's like, yeah, no, there's too many seals. There's too many seals. They're destroying the ocean and the fishery, the entire ecosystem, right? So we need to actually start hunting seals again. And I'm like, what the
Oh, are the seals up to something? Are they doing things? Are they
oh no, they're
tearing down Inuit igloos or
no, they're eating too many fish and they're shitting all over everything and they're disrupting the marine environment.
Except geese don't eat fish.
Well, so you have
or do they? Do geese eat fish? No, I think they just eat weeds, right?
No.
I gotta check that out.
No, they eat weeds and stuff. But yeah, you have this like left-wing woman who was on like
oh yeah, they are vegetarian. They're vegan.
Canada's
no wonder they're such assholes. Like geese are massive assholes. Did you know they were vegan? I wonder if there's a correlation there. Sorry, continue.
Well, they're always hangry, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, they're always hangry. Like they're just like, yeah, you just don't want to mess with the geese. Like you see a bunch of geese and because we have like a lot of banks here, the nice river. And then you see the geese and you're like, it's like some kind of biker gang just rolls in and you're just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm leaving.
But what is that woman's name? Walsh. I know her last name is Walsh. She was on Codco and on This Hour Has 22 Minutes. And yeah.
Chicken Lady?
No, not that's freaking Kids in the Hall. Are you stupid?
Yeah. No, yes, I am stupid.
Anyway, she is actually shilling to start hunting seals again. Right? Because
just don't hunt the wolves. Like fucking okay, go ahead.
Our stupidity, right? Our single-mindedness. We have blinders on. Oh, well, carbon dioxide is the only pollutant we need to care about. We don't need to care about what's poisoning villages in China and what's poisoning 8-year-olds in flip-flops who are rinsing off rocks containing freaking lithium and cobalt and coltan in Congo, right? With bare legs and bare feet, right? We don't need to worry about that and how that's affecting the water tables in these villages in Africa. Yeah, no, we don't have to worry about any of that because you know what? We need that because you know what? I need a new one of these, right? This is only like it's 6 months old, but it's too old. It's too old, right? So I need a new one. And I also need an EV. And the battery's going to need to be changed. And the battery's like, it doubles the weight of the car. So it makes all of the traffic accidents really super bad, right? Because the car that plows into you weighs twice as much as a regular car.
Okay, and somebody deserts are expanding due to desertification. Someone says the Sahara Desert grew 100 kilometers southward between 1950 and 2019. 8% increase. So somebody's pushed back on that. Oh, looks like Void Cat has arrived. So did you want to say anything to that or?
Well, honestly, I can't I'd have to Google it. All I know is the Earth is 10% the Earth's surface has 10% more green foliage coverage than it did in the 1970s.
And actually more because of less destructive agricultural practices, a lot of green cover in Europe has recovered since like
no, it's no, that recovery is premature because they're actually clearing entire pastures of the foliage and just putting down solar panels along the ground.
Okay, well, I guess we're once again hating the trees.
mean, I guess the solar panels turn sunlight not into heat but into energy, like plants would.
I think that's a really unfair thing to say. Trump is a felon because just using sort of an example of in some places deserts actually are being reclaimed by foliage, and like she said, 8% overall or something percent overall increase in
8% in the Sahara increase in, I guess
he said
from
decrease.
What he said, or 8% increase in desertification, right?
Yeah,
in the
but
Sahara.
You're saying overall there's been an increase in.
Oh no, over the entire globe, there's been at least 10% increase. Like when I looked in 2018,
so you were just basically using that as an example of an overall increase in plants.
Coverage of
As
green
we all
foliage.
know, the plants are up to something.
The plants, I hope they take over.
Yeah. Well, we might have more intelligence.
Yes, they are smarter than us.
Hey, buds. I'm going to do a squish. You're going to be squished. Squish that cat. Squish that cat. All right. So let's see if I have anything left here.
Okay, so you think Carney is going to give Trump Western Canada?
I don't think he's necessarily going to give it to Trump. I wouldn't be surprised, though, considering how friendly they are. But
no, I think I'm predicting that by this time next year, there will be enough support for separation, at least in Alberta and Saskatchewan, that there will be a successful referendum in each province.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and then
then it'll be up to BC and Manitoba whether they want to go with us.
Yeah, but then the ultimate thing is just that it encouraged this process to really get going, and the split between East and West. And again,
PEI can suck my dick. That's all I gotta say. 39,000 people.
Canada
39,000 people per seat in Parliament.
Yeah, it is for sale. And in fact, you just sold Canada for the impression that someone was going to go balls to the or like elbows up with Trump. And while he was selling you on the impression he was going to go elbows up with Trump, he was rubbing elbows with Trump and dropping tariffs, which is probably why Trump said publicly, when I talk to Carney again when he's in office, and also said that he was
also said he thought the other guy hated Trump more than the guy who won.
Well, of course, Poilievre hated Trump more because Trump wasn't helping him.
Well, no, Poilievre should have called. Poilievre should have called Trump and said, I'm going to have to run on a Canadian sovereignty anti-Trump agenda if I'm going to win, right? Because this is the heads up that Carney gave Trump, right? This is what I'm going to have to say publicly if I'm going to win. And Poilievre should have made the same fucking call. This is what I'm going to have to say publicly if I'm going to win, right? But don't take it personally, because everybody with a fucking brain, which is not voters,
apparently not,
by and large, right? Everybody with a fucking brain knows nobody's going elbows up with the US. They're just not. The European Union isn't. Britain isn't. Like, nobody's going elbows up with the US. Everybody's like freaking kind of caving, right? They're giving ground. They're like, okay, yeah, no, you're right. We kind of had these stupid, unfair, non-tariff trade barriers that were in place. Okay, we'll take your cows and your fucking cars, right? Yeah, no, like it's literally you have this situation where he's just like, yeah, no, I'm gonna wag my dick around, right? And I got the biggest dick in town, and like, let's make a deal. I'll try not to completely obliterate you.
So Trump is a felon says, good thing you're all the minority. We're not the minority in the West. And Trump is a felon says something, Alpha says Canada is not for sale. Well, yeah, it was for sale. Like I said, you sold it to a guy who said he was going to go elbows up to Trump and didn't. And yes, I know Poilievre should have played the game, but consider how autistic he is.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, no, the autism serves him in some ways and not in others.
Not in others.
But, yeah, no, and his apparently Jenny Byrne.
But the ultimate point is that, our personal sentiments are irrelevant. we're coming to the end of this kind of monetized debt. So the end of the ability for governments to continue to buy their own debt to keep interest rates low in the bond market and keep funding themselves. We're coming to the end of that. Like it's pretty much done. And then AI is putting its own kind of pressures on everyone economically. And Trump is playing the game. Carney's playing the game to win for himself. And I don't think Canada is going to continue in its current state. Somebody's going to come to realize just the amount of value the Western provinces offer, because we are a low population, a very large amount of resources, just like Greenland. In fact, we're second.
If you actually look at GDP per capita in Canada, the two top earners per capita are the Northwest Territories and Nunavut, because they're the most sparsely populated, but they produce per capita. They produce, I think, Northwest Territories is like 120,000 a year per capita, and Alberta is like 98,000. And Alberta is the highest of all the provinces.
But the point is that the global financial system is expiring.
Yeah, no,
and things are going to change.
How long?
And somebody's going to realize what the value proposition of Western Canada. The value proposition of Eastern Canada is real estate and deindustrializing and selling carbon taxes. The value proposition of Western Canada is a huge amount of resources to fund the AI revolution. And it's already happening. It's already being brought into Alberta. And there's reasons why they're doing that. And I mean, it's like, yeah, you can talk about sentiment. You can talk about national identity. Like at this point, don't even hit me with that national identity crap.
Oh yeah, no, the Liberals' official position was that Canada didn't have a national identity and that we don't have a culture.
This is the thing. Like this is coming from me. Of all the people I know, I have the most reason to be pissed off at Trump. Okay? Because I was banned from the US for 5 years based on a policy memo he sent the border. Right? And I mean, probably there was additional issues because we're on the Department of Homeland Security. Like we are, I don't know. I mean, it might be a situation where the U.S. is like, yeah, Alberta, Saskatchewan, come on in, but not Alison Tiemann. She stays. I'm just kidding. I'm not that important, but I'm seriously like this. I have the most grievance of any person I've ever talked to with Trump derangement syndrome. And I can still look at the guy rationally and what he's doing. And I can understand his motivations and I can understand his strategy. I'm starting to see it. Because the thing is that you got to realize the time of easy money is over. There is not going to be like this gigantic amounts of venture capital. It's not going to be like these cheap loans. Like there's just not going to be in the future. And there may not even be that much income tax because nobody will be making an income. In fact, he might be, honestly, like I wouldn't put this out of bounds. A universal basic income, it might have to happen because of what AI is doing to the job market. And I'm not going to sit there and say, well, that's against my conservative. I don't have conservative principles. I just have things that I observe. Right? Like maybe my conservative principle is if it works, don't just throw it out. Right? That's about it. But you know, I am part of LGBTQ plus or whatever the hell it is called now. At least functionally, I suppose. I don't know if they'd want me, but you know, and I'm looking forward to the 10-year ban from the alphabet community. That they're going to send in the mail. We've preemptively banned you from all of our events. Fuck off. You know, I don't know. But anyway, so that's like, but my overall point is like, I have a grievance, but I put it in a context, right? Like, I think that Trump his rhetoric about the rest of the world is very aggressive, but I see what he's doing. He's selling something to his base, right? I don't think that the US is the victim of the rest of the world, especially not when you've got such cheap rates on your government bonds, and it's called exorbitant privilege. You've got a lot from the world, let's say. But I also understand that when you're dealing with an existential crisis, you genuinely have to play hardball. And that's what the man is doing for his country. Good for him. It's every leader that's worth his salt is going to do that. We just don't have one that's going to do that, at least not for Canada. Like, I don't think that Carney gives a rat's ass about Canada. He gives, like, he's just going to plunder the bank and then fuck off to his headquarters in the U.S. Maybe he'll take a side trip to Mar-a-Lago and have some I don't know, mojitos with the Don just celebrate their victory. He doesn't give a crap about us. If anybody who would play that game, who would create such a fraud out of his own campaign, doesn't give a crap. And I almost can admire that level of chutzpah. Like, seriously, he played idiots, and the idiots he played are probably going to be the worst off for it. And like Mark Twain said, you can fool a man. It's easier to fool a man than convince him that he's been fooled. So I know that Trump is a felon, and all the other guys who are bigging up Carney will continue to ignore the fact that Carney is Trump's bestest bud. Like, they're good, they're pals, and they worked on this together. And when you have that level of collusion, you really got to ask what they're up to. But you're not going to ask that because you got conned and you refuse to admit to yourself that you got conned. And the fact that you refuse to admit to yourself is why you're going to lose even more. And you're going to continue to lose. So anyway, I wonder if we can bring this to men's issues. Let's do the trifecta of things that people find toxic, eh? Well, I think that here's a thing. I think, are you still around there, Karen? Here's a thought that might be of interest. I think that I was thinking about this a while back. Actually, it was earlier this week. Let's see if I can open this up and show it to you. It's this video I made, and I actually reconsidered. Oh, by the way, guys, if you've been listening, why don't you send us a super chat? You've been light on the super chats lately. feedthebadger.com/justthetip. But here we go. I'm going to show you this. Let's see if I can get this up. All right. Share this tab instead. Can you see this? And I will play it. It's a video I took. It's Victoria Day. Be a holiday, and these guys are working. In fact, I missed it, but he was all the way up. That guy with the band around his waist was all the way up, top of the pole, held on by nothing but his own strength and apparent chutzpah. Yeah, and get this, ladies, these guys have no incentive to do this work anymore because it doesn't give them an access to family, and if it does, well, divorce, because the mentality that it takes to climb that damn pole and fix it using nothing but your leg strength and a strap is inconsistent with the mentality that women say they desire so much from men. Kind of sensitivity and wordsmithing. Yeah. And actually, after I did that, I was actually really thinking about this. And Brian, are you there? Because I'm actually going to describe what you talked to me about, which was the as the 1963 rational pig experiment. Did you want to talk about that? Because I don't want to take your thunder from that. I know you wanted to actually talk about it on during stream.
Well, I didn't find the study, but essentially the 1963 pig experiment. Let me see. Let me find it. Hold on. The 1963 pig experiment. Here's what I have a short version. Okay, so it was A study that aligned with a classic operant conditioning experiment similar to those conducted by B.F. Skinner, but with pigs instead of rats or pigeons. Originated from a psychology or animal behavior journal, given its focus on decision making. Okay, well that's just blah 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 blah. Essentially, let me see here. There was a study. Yeah, here we go. Set up with 2 pigs, one large pig and one small pig. Okay, in the behavioral study that was designed to explore decision making and effort allocation. The large pig could press a lever to dispense food pellets, but the food was delivered at the opposite end of the shuttle box. The smaller pig was able to get there first because it was smaller and faster and closer to the food pellet dispensary where the food pellets came out. This created a dynamic where the large pig expended all the effort to activate the food release, but the small pig benefited by consuming the pellets. So that was and basically that's sort of like, Alexander Grace talked about it in a video he did, which I thought was interesting because he was essentially saying that the system that the system we live under now is one where, the men pay in and the women take out. And the men will continue to pay in because they are, even though they get less, because like the large pig doesn't get no food, he gets some, but only after the smaller pig has had its fill. So the large pig is still willing to keep doing it because he wants to eat, even though he knows he's not going to get as much food as the small pig does. So that was the pig experiment.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about that, and we got an asshole in chat. His name is Armin. But anyway, he says I'm yapping and I'm too old to do this. Well, screw you, I'm going to do it anyway. What would you prefer the Zoomers to do this? Anyway, so
he wants Luke Beasley.
Sorry?
He wants Luke Beasley or Harry Sisson.
Okay. Well, then why doesn't he go get those people?
Well,
or Hassan Piker.
You responded to him, so you gave him what he actually wanted, which was your attention. So, congratulations.
Yeah, I know. I hope that you're rubbing your knob, Armin, wherever you are. Okay, let's. So the reason why I wanted to bring up this experiment, the rational pig experiment, is that I was really thinking and bringing some stuff together about my statements. How the men who 95% of the male labor force that's actually keeping the infrastructure and the utilities running, they're going to keep doing it probably because they see a direct benefit to themselves in doing it. What we have seen over the last generation is, in my opinion, the withdrawal of creativity and creative disruption. So artistic, music, filmmaking, and innovative disruption in the industry that would normally have been done by men. So while men who do utilities and infrastructure will continue to do their work, I think that we are going to see, well, we've already seen the complete withdrawal of creative disruption by men from the economy. Now, the reason why I want to point this out is because for the last 90 years, we have been living in the prosperity created by one man. And that man his name is Claude Shannon. Have you guys heard of Claude Shannon? I know you might have, Brian, because I talk about him incessantly recently. Do you know who is his parent? Nope. Do you want me to tell you? Quiet. You must be doing something.
Are you asking me?
Oh, no, I'm asking Karen. Do you know who Claude Shannon is?
No.
Okay. Claude Shannon wrote 2 papers. One was on the use of Boolean algebra in what was currently like these analog computers. So replacing what they were doing currently with Boolean algebra. You must know the importance of that, right, Karen?
I'm sure it was a leap forward, yes.
Yeah, it was a conceptual leap forward. So it wasn't creating a new technology. It was taking current technology, reconfiguring it conceptually, and then from that was the basis of the transistor revolution. that actually is the foundation for modern computing. But in addition to that, he also wrote a paper that talked about how you could increase signal veracity by not doing an analog signal, but a digital signal. So, and the reason why he talked about that is because when you have when you're just sending an on and off, it has a greater degree. Like if you send an on and off signal, you are more likely to receive what you're sending than if you send an analog signal. So you see how, for example, if you're trying to tune into a radio station, you have to do a lot of fiddling and there's a lot of static. That's because it's an analog signal, and you have to sort of get it right to decipher it. But a digital signal can it doesn't deliver information as fast unless it's serial, but it delivers information much more accurately. So he actually laid the basis, not just for the transistor revolution, but for the digitized information revolution. One man, and that is 90 years of prosperity, because a lot of our prosperity that's been driven for the last 90 years has been driven by these new technologies and all of the stuff that came out of them. So we got the first, like the moon landings, right? And then we got the business machine revolution. Then we got the personal machine revolution. And then we have the iPhone. So the digital phone revolution. And all of that came out of that one man, that one disruptive conceptual idea that laid the foundation for all of it. And we've been enjoying that for 90 years. Of course, we're at the end of it now because we've constructed this thing that's eating its own tail. But yeah, what I think that they're trying to do, and this is
eating our tail.
Yeah, it's eating our tail. Well, because like AI is going to massively reduce employment. But what I think they're trying to do with AI is replicate the actual withdrawal of creativity from innovation and art and everything. Like they're looking at this to be like the new purpose, the new thing, like the new bubble, really. And of course, the reason why we've seen the destruction of our disruptors is because we've destroyed the group of people that these disruptors come from, which is boys. Like for the most part, it's boys. Girls are valued as students because why? They're quiet and compliant. And they do what they're told. Yeah. And so what have we done for the last couple generations? We have drugged boys. We've poisoned them with stuff that actually stunts their growth, increases their rates of psychosis. And we have told them that they're defective girls. We have taken away the physical activities that they require to actually focus. We teach boys in ways that are specifically designed to see them fail because those ways elevate girls arbitrarily. And we actually literally test them lower for no other reason than they're boys. So we have destroyed generations of our disruptors. And what we have earned from that is the complete destruction of our economy. And that's why we're doing all this. That's why we're doing tariffs. That's why we're doing resource wars. That's why we're engaging in trade wars. And we're now agitating for war. It's right. It's like the interwar period once again, which is when Cloud Shannon did his work. He published his first paper in 1937. So anyway, I thought I would throw that out just to piss people off even more. And if you have anything you want to add to that, Karen?
No, I don't. I'm very happy to have you dash my hopes for the future of humanity.
Oh,
and
no.
Then sign off.
Really? I don't think our hopes are dashed. We just need to
dashed.
No. Okay, fine. The sliver of hope. We just honestly, if you think about what Cloud Shannon did, he didn't create new technology. He just rearranged existing technology in a completely new conceptual framework. We just have to do that again. That's easy.
Okay. Well, here's an assignment for all of you who might be have access to an AI. Ask it if it can come up with a hypothesis as to how the mRNA vaccines might cause transverse myelitis.
Oh boy.
And then go from there.
She's dropping the bombs. Okay,
yeah, because it will tell you exactly how that might happen. And if you prompt it with questions, because it'll say, when I asked it, okay, so why did they pick mRNA, right? Why didn't they just do a regular conventional vaccine? And it was like, well, because it's quick and easy to adapt, right, to new strains, and also it could be mass produced in large quantities, and also blah blah blah. And then I was like, well, okay, what about this, this, and this, right? And then it was like, oh, that could be a problem. And then I was like, so why did they wait until September of 2022 to introduce the vaccine that dealt with the Omicron strain? And it said, well, because, it took a while, right? And I was like, so, but why was the vaccine bivalent? Why did they include not just the Omicron strain, but the extinct original strain? Why did they include that? And he said, oh, it was to avoid original antigenic sin, and also to speed up the regulatory process. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Can you explain how it would do either of those things? And it was like, on second thought, it would actually increase the risk of original antigenic sin to include the original extinct virus in the new bivalent vaccine. And also, they would have to test it not just for its own safety in the Omicron component, but also the safety of the interaction of the two components, right? So it would slow down. And then I just flat out asked it, or maybe they just had a bunch of freaking leftover vaccine that nobody was buying, and they decided they were going to cut the new stuff with the old stuff. They were going to cut the new stuff with the obsolete stuff and sell it for twice the price. And it was like, while this does seem highly cynical, I can't think of any other reason why they would do that.
Well, that's this channel, highly cynical, often right.
Honestly, you just need to know how to talk to AI, and it will tell you the truth.
Well,
it'll lie to you initially. It'll be like, I'm just going to scrape the internet for like this surface level freaking press releases, right? And the surface level data. And then you just have to ask it some questions. Explain how that actually
migrate back right.
Yeah.
But okay, so somebody is asking you if you're okay being here. I presume so, because she's continuing to talk. But I actually had a similar experience with Grok. A woman asked Grok, a feminist asked Grok, well, what is the DV statistics? And Grok cited Women's Aid and said the majority of victims are women. And I said, Women's Aid is a feminist organization. Could its ideology influence its statistics? And then it said, oh yes, it could. And then I said, how many times have feminist ideology, feminist promoted ideology, or has feminist ideology been complicit in the how to phrase this, in the manipulation of statistics in the domestic violence industry? And it gave me, like, it was thinking, and then it wrote like 5 paragraphs, cite, and then it thought, and then it wrote cite, and then it thought again, cite, and then it thought cite. And I'm like, oh, are you going to get done? And eventually and it said something like, these are the top 20 responses, but there are additional citations. Like, do you want me to list all of them? I'm like, no. I said, if any other group of researchers with an ideological focus had this level of corruption in their research, would we consider them to be credible? And they said, and it said no, because and then it cited a whole bunch of ethical breaches that it had identified in feminist research. So yeah, you can definitely get AI through a series of prompts to do a lot of interesting research.
Yeah, no, you just have to ask, because like the one that I use, Claude.io, is it scrapes the surface level of the internet for like current event kind of stuff, right? But it has access to, so how does the immune system work, right? And things like that, right? So it's like, so when it says, oh, well, they used these vaccines, this particular platform for vaccines, because of this, and this, and because they would be more immunogenic, which they are, right, than conventional vaccines. But, but then you just have to say, can you speculate as to how this vaccine would distribute in the body unevenly, right? Can you speculate as to why it would distribute unevenly to some places more than others, how it would cause certain things in some people and certain things in others? And it gets right down, it drills right down through its general knowledge of medicine, right? To like basically telling me exactly what I already knew, which is why the adverse events are so variable and different in different people. They can vary by when and what you last ate or what time of day you got vaccinated, right? Because it all depends on which cells in your body are metabolically active. That's the cells that are going to uptake this shit and get destroyed, right? And all their bystander neighbors are going to get bombarded with inflammation. And that's how these vaccines work, right? And they were designed to cross every protective barrier in your body, including the placental barrier and the blood-brain barrier. That's what they were designed to do. And so, yeah, no, it's not just, you don't just get encephalitis, you actually get brainitis, because it transfects your brain cells and causes them to get killed, not just your encephalus or whatever it's called, the membrane around your brain, right? The protective membrane. Yeah, no, it's not just that gets killed, because these things get transported across your barriers because they're just like, they're just snacks, right? They're not viruses. They're not pathogens. They're like the little particles that these vaccines are transported in, right? That basically infect your cells, right? They infect the cells that take them up and make the cells signal that they're to your immune system that they're infected. So the immune system will destroy them and inflame all the neighbors, the entire neighborhood, right? Okay. Your immune system doesn't recognize them as harmful. So it just transports them across these barriers, right? Into your brain, into your baby, right? And then it's just nothing but cell damage and cell death, 10 to 50 billion cells per dose.
Okay. This is well, I've never been a real biochemist, Maven, but I'm sure it's fascinating to people who are interested in biochemistry. But
yeah, well, it should be fascinating to everybody, because people are. I can even explain to you.
No, it's okay.
6 different mechanisms by which, okay, Biden's prostate cancer, Gleason 9, stage 4, okay? Stage 4, Gleason 9, right? Maybe he didn't have prostate cancer until he got his last jab. Right? And I can explain to you 6 mechanisms that may work independently or together to have accelerated his cancer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, the other thing is that do we want to be here till 6? Like,
no, we don't. And
okay.
I'm mad now.
Well, all I'm saying is you probably want to go make supper, right?
No, I don't.
Why are you mad? Why are you mad? Because I'm making you leave?
No, I'm mad because I'm talking about people who have been like forced into, coerced into, cajoled into, tricked into taking something that everybody knew, right? Almost all pharmaceutical companies abandoned this technology in 2008 because it was proven to be cytotoxic and hyperinflammatory. It was highly, highly toxic to your body.
Yeah, this is new though. I mean, usually they just give that to gay people.
Apparently not anymore.
No, apparently okay, the straights have to go too.
And this is why whenever any of these conspiracy theorists, and there are some out there, right, who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they're like, oh, it was introduced as a depopulation thing, right? They made the virus so they could introduce the vaccine to depopulate the planet. It's like, why would you want to only leave the people who say, fuck you? Why would you want to kill everybody who's like, okay, I'll do whatever the government says?
No, I it's not that I disagree with you. I'm actually seeing if I put the number to the Badger Cave in the chat. So I'm going to see if these trolls actually do call in. But it will have to be before we leave.
No, I'm leaving now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I got to get my husband some dinner, and I also have to find him his zip ties.
Maybe, is he out of his wizard cloak?
Yeah, no, he's wearing his mortal garb. But he can't find his zip ties. He thinks I put them somewhere.
Is there any logic behind believing that he's you would hide his zip ties?
No.
What does he need the zip ties for again? Do you have somebody locked up in your basement?
No, to tame his cords.
Oh, his cords. Oh, I see. Yes, he's got my problem. Like,
no,
we got a ton of cords.
They're not actually zip ties. They're the little Velcro ties, right? And he had a whole bag of them. These things, right?
Yeah.
He had a whole bag of them, and he thinks I moved them, and it's like, I did not move them, but I will help you look.
Yeah. Well, apparently the individual in the chat who asked for a way to call in, not calling in. What a surprise.
All right. Good. Yeah, no, I don't want to talk to that.
Very serious people out there. Very serious people.
Very serious people. Like, seriously, if you want to chat, go right ahead. We can find out what kind of specimen of person you are.
I really like how you're using my time, friend. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'm gonna go on the hunt for the Velcro ties. The cord tamers.
Yeah, and I've got to. Well, I'll do some work around here, I suppose. All right.
I'll put the stew back on the heat and feed my husband.
Okay. Anyway, so I think it's thank you for joining us and for your kind attention. Thank you for sitting through all those rants. I think they're interesting rants. I know, like what can I say? Just lots of ideas being thrown around, and also ranting about hating plants and the sinister plant people. All right. So anyway, if you would like this show, if you want to make a commentary on anything that we've talked about, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. You guys got to send us the super chows, because you guys have gotten really quiet for some reason. Is it just that time of year? Has the AI taken over? I don't know. Anyway, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Thank you again to Pepito for the $25. And thank you to everybody else who's helped us through our fundraiser. If you'd like to help there, it's feedthebadger.com/support. Big thank you to Richard for $2,000 that he put in a while back, because me and the writers went through adolescence, which you can find that on my own channel at Gender Attic. That is 1T, 2 R's? Whatever, at Gender Attic. And yeah, thank you for Brian for producing this. And thank you for Karen for coming on. And yep, have a lovely evening, afternoon. Oh, wait, right. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, put a comment below, and share, because sharing is caring. And thank you for your kind attention. Have a lovely evening, afternoon, whatever you are, wherever you are. Have a lovely time doing it.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.